Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Hello and welcome to today's webinar, Discovering Your Entrepreneurial Gig, Clean Earth Rovers. Before we get started, I wanted to thank our sponsors, P&G Ventures, Kroger, First Financial, North American Properties, Aura Ventures, Taft, and KMK. This would not be possible without them. If you have any questions throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A tool at the bottom of your screen to ask your questions. A recorded version of today's webinar will be provided. Please continue to fill out the survey at the end of the webinar. Thank you all so much for attending. I'm going to hand it off to Michael and David to get us started.
Hi, everybody. We are here today to talk to you guys about discovering your entrepreneurial path. And both David and I will be discussing a little bit more of what it's like to be an entrepreneur during school, what it's like to be an entrepreneur at a young age, and then also how we came up and started developing the idea that is Clean Earth Rovers. So I'll start out real quick with kind of how I knew for a while that I wanted to get into entrepreneurship. Growing up, I've had a very strong presence of entrepreneurship in my life. My grandfather and my dad both operate a family-owned business in St. Louis that installs commercial glass. And I spent a lot of time around them and their offices growing up and kind of seeing what it was like to manage a team of people and to work in your own space and manage yourself. And I always liked that idea of entrepreneurship and what you can get out of it. And so my family, because of that, has become very self-reliant and has taught me a lot about how to do that for myself. And then on top of that, when you're deciding what entrepreneurship means for you, a big part of it is like how much are you willing to learn? And I think for me growing up, I had a huge passion for learning, whether it was through things like sports or chess, reading, all types of different stuff. And those are all big things in entrepreneurship. And that's something that really got me interested and helped reassure me that this was something and a path that I wanted to go in moving forward.
Hey everyone, just wanted to introduce myself. I'm David Constantine. I'm going to be a senior next year, entrepreneurial studies major. And I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about how I first got to know Michael. So Michael and I both came to Xavier as freshmen. It's funny, we moved into a dorm building called Brockman Hall. I don't know how many Xavier affiliates or Xavier alumni we got here, but Brockman's been around for a while. It's not the best dorm, but it did the job. But so I knew that Michael and a few other guys moved down about 2 doors down from me in that original Brockman Hall. And for me, hockey was a huge thing growing up, and I knew these guys were all on the hockey team. So when I first started talking to them, it was always like, "Oh, how's it going?" Because they played for Xavier, and I was like, "Oh, how's the team? How are the games going? Everything like that." And I always enjoyed talking to them, and that's kind of how I got to first know Michael. And kind of going about myself, I've always had a drive and passion for environmental issues, and one of those being plastic pollution. And so how I kind of did my part was I purchased a bracelet from this company called 4Ocean. And now 4Ocean, for those who don't know, is basically a company who hires fishermen and also has volunteers to go out and do manned beach cleanups. They do an incredible job, and they're located in Florida. They also have places in Indonesia where plastic pollution is a major problem. And they basically sell bracelets to then fund their cleanups and company. And I so happened to purchase one. I posted on my Instagram story, and Michael saw it, and he basically swiped up and he was like, "Hey, this is cool that you have a passion for this type of stuff. I do as well. I'm kind of working on something." He's like, "I'll let you know in the near future." And I was like, "Yeah, take your time." And so then around 4 months later, I got a email from Michael, very long email, basically just describing everything that Clean Earth Rovers was. And what Michael has done previously, it was very incredible stuff. I loved everything about what he was doing, and he asked me to be a part of it, and I'll always be very thankful for this day. And when he asked me, I didn't even think about it. I was like, yes, of course. And now thinking about from what Clean Earth Rovers has started back then when Michael first began everything as an idea of where we are now. We've taken a lot of steps. We still have a lot to go, but we made a lot of progress, and both of us are proud of it. But we're excited for what we have in the future.
Yeah, and I think a big part of our progress with Clean Earth Rovers has to do with the educational system that David and I are both a part of. Like he mentioned, we're both going to be senior entrepreneurial study majors at Xavier University, and I think for entrepreneurs, especially a lot of the people that are in this program that are in high school, a big question that you're asking, I'm sure, is what do you want to study after you graduate? And for me, this was something that I was very unsure of until I realized that entrepreneurial studies was a thing. And I think that there is a lot that can be done when you're learning how to become a successful entrepreneur and what tools, skills, and assets that you can develop while going through this journey. And a lot of people ask, "Well, how do you learn entrepreneurship?" And I know at Xavier, we have great professors like Mike Halloran. Um, we learn the lean startup method. We use Strategizer all the time, which is a lot of stuff that a lot of you have heard in the pitch competition training. And all of that stuff is to benefit you as an entrepreneur moving forward. And in those programs, I think that there's a really big opportunity for student entrepreneurs to either just kind of go through the motions, or to get involved and to find out what they're passionate about and to push their ideas and their projects forward while they have these opportunities and assets at their advantage and at their usage. So going a little bit more into the Clean Earth Rovers story and how David and I got involved with this was something that I started working on in 2017 after I graduated from high school. And it really started off as just an idea. And I know David mentioned 4Ocean. There's also another company out there called the Ocean Cleanup. And I saw what both of them were doing, and I thought that there is a chance at developing a better solution. And when it came down to it, a lot of this had to do with vocation. And at the time, it was really hard for me. I was trying to discover what it was that I was passionate about, what it was that I felt like I was being called to do. And I took a step back and realized that with entrepreneurship, you have the passion, or you have the opportunity to really do anything that you're passionate about. And then that led me to the path of why wouldn't you choose something that has a social calling or a social purpose? And for me, recognizing that you have the opportunity to do anything you can, it was a no-brainer um, to do something that would eventually help other people. And so when it came to actually pursuing this idea, like I said, it was 2017 when I first started it, right after I graduated from high school. I spent most of my freshman year trying to develop and create a solution. And then a lot of my sophomore and junior year with David working on growing it, scaling it, nailing down our business model. And not up until more recently have we, pivoted and gained a ton of traction. And we've gotten some unbelievable support from the startup community. But it's all due, I think, to us finding what we're passionate about and putting our time and our efforts into it and sticking with it, even when, it's frustrating that things are moving slow or whatever it may be. I think passion in this story is something that really is important and is important for all entrepreneurs. So that goes a little bit more into having what it takes. And so one thing I wanted to highlight here is a lot of people, I'm sure, out there play sports, and this helps a lot with uh, building leadership, team skills, and just learning how to compete and put in hard work, and see the payoffs of it, even if it's not immediate. And so with finding something that you're passionate about, that's a big thing. You have to be willing to do the hard work. You have to be able to do the dirty work and know that the payoffs might not be immediate. And a lot of people don't always know what it is that they're passionate about. And I think um, the easiest way to figure it out is just to try a bunch of different things and learn about a bunch of different things. And you'll know with this idea of finding your flow. So as you continue to learn and as you continue to get involved in different things, you'll find that when you're truly passionate, you can work on it for hours on end. Um, and the time will move by and you won't even realize it, and you'll just flow and enjoy it, and your work won't seem like work. And I think you'll very quickly know if you're doing the wrong thing, because your work will be tedious and frustrating and annoying. And I think, and there's an old saying that I know probably all of you are familiar with, but it's, if you're doing what you love, you'll never work a day in your life. And that's about as true as it gets. If you're not working on something you're passionate on, or you're not pursuing something you're passionate about, it's going to make you miserable, and it'll wear you down very quickly. And this idea of sweat equity is just also building off of that passion aspect. I know a lot of people through this program have really stressed and harped on this, but passion is what's going to push you forward and what's going to make all this hard work and effort worthwhile, even without the instant gratification of it all. So.
And kind of going off of about what Michael was saying with what it takes to be an entrepreneur, something that also goes along with it is sacrifices. And this is not the most fun part about entrepreneurship, but it's all part of it. And in order to get where you want to be with your startup or company, you have to be willing to be sacrificing things. And when I say sacrifice, I don't mean everything, but there are times, especially just kind of coming to you guys as from a college perspective. There are a lot of times when my friends want to, do something or go have fun and whatnot. And unfortunately, with kind of the time constraints that we're at and, where we want our company to be at, and, we have timelines that we need to reach, there are many times where I unfortunately say, no, I can't, I have to do this or whatnot. And a lot of times when you're working on your startup, there will be days where you will go late into the night, and, you don't really you have a choice with that, but it's kind of what you want most deep in your mind, and putting in work now instead of later will help a lot in the end, and it'll be worthwhile 100%. And when you go in with that, it's also very important to find your balance. And Michael kind of hit with that with sports, but when I say sacrifice, yes, you have to sacrifice some things, but at the end of the day, if you've had a long day of working, it's important to find those specific, hobbies and other activities that you like to do, and to just basically clear your mind at the end of the day. Because, with this path, there can be times where it's very, very stressful and it can be hard to deal with. But when you have those hobbies, like sports and whatnot, it really helps you clear your mind. And it's very important to take care of your physical and mental health. And, another, I kind of wanted to give a quote with this. Nothing worthwhile is gained without sacrifice. And, in order to get your startup to where you want it to be, there will be times where you have to sacrifice, those fun times. But if you put in the work now, the fun will come. And we've learned that. And so, yeah.
And yeah, so just like David was saying, there's a lot that goes into it, and it's not always like the pretty side of things that are portrayed by the really successful people. There's a lot that goes into it, and if you don't take care of yourself, it can become a lonely road quickly. And going back to my point about passion, there's definitely a difference between knowing what you're passionate about and just trying to find an idea that can make you a lot of money fast. And I know Tarek has touched on this in the past. Entrepreneurship is not about making money fast or making a get rich quick scheme. And I guess kind of ran into my first experience with this past semester. We had a new venture planning class, and one of the key tasks at the end of the semester was to basically have a viable startup idea that you can pitch and possibly pursue outside of the course. And for me, that was Unigo. And so working practically full time on Clean Earth Rovers, on top of school, on top of sports. And then I had the idea of this Unigo app, which basically would have been a student Uber service. And it wasn't something that I was passionate about. It was something that I thought I could do on the side, and it was something that I thought if successful, it could make a good amount of money fast. And I realized very quickly that I had no drive to work on it. I was not passionate, so I was burnt out on it very quickly. And the idea died less than a month after the class had finished. So there's just a lot to keep in mind when it comes to knowing what you're passionate about, knowing what you want to work on, and realizing that a get rich quick scheme is not going to benefit you. It'll probably make you miserable, and it'll not be the best product, service, or solution that you can provide to people that are out there. And so a lot of what David and I do revolves around, a social purpose. And that is, like I said, you have the power to work on whatever you want. So why not work on benefiting the people in the world around you? And so we've talked a lot throughout this program about what entrepreneurs do, and it's all about solving these big problems that people face. And we are touching on it through this program when it comes to sustainability, COVID, social justice, and climate change. And for us, it's all about what we can do to benefit the world as a whole. And social ventures, in my opinion, are necessary for entrepreneurship. They're necessary for innovation, and they're necessary for solving the world's greatest problems. And you'll find that there are very big problems out there that likely seem like they're untouchable or unsolvable. And I think a big part of entrepreneurship is realizing no problem is too big to solve. And if you're passionate about it, you'll find a way to make it work. Do you have anything to touch on with that, David?
No, I think you did a pretty good job of explaining all that. And now I guess I'll go into the one of the last slides that we have here, and just talk about kind of how fortunate we are to be in the startup community that we have here in Cincinnati. From my perspective, it's there's not a lot of places like this. There are so many accelerators, incubators, angel investing, opportunities that we have here in Cincinnati. It's really like no other. And I just wanted to kind of say how important it really is to get involved in these. Obviously, since you guys are in this program, you have already taken advantage of this, the community here, which is great. And basically, Michael and I have gone now through 4 accelerators now. But the thing that's great about all of them is they each have their own specific, way of running the accelerator. We've gone through Ocean's Accelerator down in OTR, and they do a great job of combining, entrepreneurship and faith and how those two can work together. Right now we're working at iCorps in Columbus, and basically all that accelerator is mainly for is to find customers. So basically what Michael and I do most of the time is we do customer discovery calls, and that basically our goal is to hit 100 different phone call interviews, finding out who are the people that want to buy our products in the future. But it's really good to get involved in as many as possible, because you will learn different things from each and every one of them. All of them are important. Another huge thing with this great community is the networking. And how you network, especially with accelerators, is you will meet a ton of people. You'll meet people who run the accelerator. You'll meet people, other startups that are involved in that accelerator. And basically, you'll never lose those connections, which is very important in the end, because another, amazing thing about Cincinnati and Startup Cincy is you never lose those connections, and everybody is always willing to help. The people that have gone through these accelerators prior and, taking their business from just an idea to simply selling it for, however much money they did, they understand the path that it takes to be an entrepreneur. And when people understand that, they know what that other person has to go through, and that just is they're very willing to help. And Michael and I have gone back to people we've worked with many, many times. We still do. From we went through Ocean now. It's been almost a little bit less than a year and a half, but we keep in contact with a lot of people from there. And it's been a really amazing thing for us. And without some of those people, we would not be at where we are today.
Yeah, and another thing too that you guys should really focus on utilizing with this community is that you are students, and you're the future of technology and innovation and problem solving. And a lot of these programs and a lot of these contacts and connections recognize that, and they want to see you succeed. And I don't think really that David and I have ever ran into any issues with like age or experience being part of the matter. I think really just all around, everybody in the community is very supportive and wants to see new growth, especially from people at a younger age. So yeah, we've got just a question that you guys can answer in the chat, and then we'll open it up to Q&A as well. It's just, why do you guys want to be an entrepreneur? What are you passionate about? What do you want to work on? And if you have any other questions, feel free to ask them. Let's see, stop sharing. All right, so Zand has a question. What do you think the most critical steps to take at the beginning of your startup to help set up you and your team for success? So I think that's a good question. And I think that David and I, as we've learned through this experience, have done things a little bit backwards, where we've thought of a solution first, but it hasn't hurt us in any way, I wouldn't say. I think that a big part of it is planning, knowing what your path to success is, doing your research, doing your homework, and just kind of having all your ducks in an order. That way, when you get to meet the right people, and you get in front of people, they'll ask questions, and you have answers to those questions. Zand also has another one. How do you know what to focus on when there are a million things to do? Please share your weekly email format, which is really helpful way to reach others. Yeah, so I'll share my bi-weekly email. And this was something that you guys might find interesting. It is a recommendation from someone who we actually met at Ocean Accelerator. And they basically said, you're going to talk to a lot of people. You're going to make a lot of connections, and there's going to be a lot of people who want to help you. And it's really important that you stay in touch with them. And that's what this bi-weekly email is. So every 2 weeks, take the time to basically type out what it is that we have completed, what it is that we're looking forward to complete, or what we're working on, and then what we're asking of the people that can help us. So how they can continue to support us, how they can continue to offer their time. And it is, it's a really useful and effective tool to keeping people in touch with you, to keeping them up to date, and show them that you're serious about what you're working on and that you're continuing to make progress. So there's also a question from Noah. How do you effectively manage your time with the business, school, and social life? David, do you want to answer that one?
Yeah. So basically, what I've kind of learned to do is, in order to keep myself organized and get everything I need to do in a day, I literally sit down, uh, say a schedule for today. I'll sit down last night and I'll basically make a schedule for myself and write down every single thing I need to do. When doing that, it's a great way to keep yourself organized, but to also, it makes sure you don't fall behind. And sometimes that can happen, which is okay. And, you learn through all the process, even going off of what Michael was saying, with the questions before, it's like, how do you deal with all these things when it seems like there's a million things to do? Well, there's been times where we have a lot to do and we'll sometimes miss things, not often, but we can learn from that. And that's super important. And there's, almost every single time we're doing something with our startup, we're learning. And that's what's a great thing about it. And what you have to be very open to do as well is to learn. And when you're open to learning, you'll be able to, obtain information a lot easier, and it'll help in the long run a lot. But basically, to answer the question, making a schedule is very important, and if you're doing that too, you schedule, calls that you'll have, next week. In order to, if you do that, you'll be ready by the following week, and you'll have your schedule set, and it'll make your life a lot easier. Trust me. So basically, just scheduling almost every single day out.
Right. And a really useful tool for that David and I use all the time is called Trello. And I'll just type it in the chat really quick. But you can basically manage all of your tasks, meetings, calls, whatever it may be in there. Set dates, set reminders. There's a lot. When it comes to having to choose what it is that you work on or what you do with friends or socially, there definitely is a balance that you have to find. And I know David touched on it. Entrepreneurship, if you don't take care of yourself, if you get caught up and so consumed by your work and your startup, it can be very unhealthy and become very lonely. And you do have to take care of your physical and mental health, and part of that is making time for your friends, making time for your social life and doing things, but it's also staying disciplined and prioritizing all the things that need to get done at the same time. So it's a learning experience, and you get used to it as time comes.
I have a question for you guys too. So the students are doing like a pitch competition as a part of the program, and you guys have given lots of pitches and presentations. So I was wondering if you guys could share some of your top tips for like while you're presenting and like in what you do like in preparation of it.
Yeah, so the way David actually joined was he started with working on a pitch competition with me on Clean Earth Rovers, and a lot of that process and that experience was through, we were getting the same tips that we got then as we are now from Mike Halloran. And a lot of it is just making sure that you're getting constant feedback on your slides and practicing until it's just engraved in the back of your head.
Yep. And another thing, a big part about pitching, this is kind of a broader thing, is make sure you are very, like, we've been probably told this a million times, be enthusiastic. When you're being enthusiastic, no matter what you're talking about, people will listen. And it's important for people to listen to you while you're giving these. And basically, besides that, is to practice. And every time you'll do it, it'll get easier and easier each time. I mean, I remember when we first joined the Big East pitch competition, I remember I was super nervous, and it was probably in front of around 30 people or so. And now where we've come now and how many times we've done this, we've given pitches, we gave a TED talk last November in front of, I want to say it was a little bit over 100 people and stuff like that. But, it's come easy to us now, and the more you do it, the better you'll get at it. So just practice.
Yeah, and definitely, like you said, your energy reflects how people will see and portray your pitch. So definitely be mindful. If you think you're being energetic or theatrical and cheesy or dramatic, take it up a notch because you likely are not as much as you think you are.
Great. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I'm going to wrap us up here. Thank you everyone for taking the time to join us today. Thank you so much, Michael and David, for sharing your background and insights on finding your entrepreneurial path. The recorded version of this session will be available soon. Students, we love hearing your feedback. Please fill out the quick survey that pops up once you leave the meeting. It takes less than a minute. Please join us at tomorrow at 12 for our next webinar, My Journey from Corporate to Startup with Dari Grant. Thank you all, everyone. Thanks again, Michael and David.
Yep. Thank you guys. And also, for those who are on this, feel free to contact us at any time. We can, whether or not you can add our emails or whatnot. I mean, we could send out an email later as well with our contact information. So
sounds good. If you guys share your emails with me, I can send it out in an email to all the students.
sounds good.
Awesome.
Perfect. Thank you both.
Yeah. Thank you.